We begin with a new book by Miles Dungan, If You Want to Know Who We Are, which chronicles the history of the celebrated Rathmines and Rathgar Musical Society since its foundation just 100 years ago, November 1913. The R&R, as it was known, specialised in the Savoy operas by Gilbert and Sullivan.
Oh, better far to live and die under the brave black flag I fly than play a sanctimonious part with a pirate head and a pirate heart. Away to the cheating world go you, where pirates all are well-to-do, but I'll be true to the song I sing and live and die a pirate king.
To date, and including the Centenary Mikado at the National Concert Hall this month, the R&R has staged 293 separate productions, compilations or entertainments at the Queen's, the Olympia and the Gaiety Theatres and the National Concert Hall in Dublin, a remarkable achievement for an amateur musical society.
The society was founded by a man called C.P. Fitzgerald, who was the organist of the Church of the Three Patrons in Rathgar.
From an interview with Ray Lynott, Heather Hewson recalls her associations with the Rathmines and Rathgar.
And it was formed by him, gathering together, friends and all that from the Rathgar and Rathmines areas. And they were formed, really, to do both light opera and choral works. But they decided that they would start off by performing the Mikado and showing great courage, I think, in doing so, considering that the D'Oyly Cart would be coming every year at that time and performing these operas.
So Mikado was first of all?
First of all, yes, on the 8th of December 1913. In the Queen's.
Oh,
Queen's
in Pearse
Theatre.
Street, as it is now, Pearse
Yes,
Street.
Pearse Street, yes, exactly. Yeah.
And any reviews or notices for that?
Here is from the Irish Times. The opening scene of the second act was perfectly staged, and the singing of the chorus throughout worthy of very high praise. Now, I think that's very good. As chorus master today, I think that I like to see that. But, on the other hand, the Dublin Evening Mail is not quite so polite and says that the chorus from their numbers should produce a great deal more tone. So I think somewhere between the two, the truth may have lain.
Heather Hewson, another figure in the R&R's history, was the broadcaster Cecil Barrer, although he was also associated with the rival amateur grouping, the Old Belvedere Musical Society. But here he is, from the archives of Kevin Hock's Theatre Nights.
Actually, there again, it was a first for me. I had joined the Rathmines and Rathgar, and the first time I performed on a commercial stage was in the Gaiety in that show with the R&R.
This was the Arcadians by Monckton and Talbot.
And it was really a lovely production too.
Yeah. Who was conducting them? Was it Terry O'Connor?
No, T.H. Tommy Weaving. It's going back a bit, I can tell you. He was a professor of piano, I think, in the Royal Irish Academy. Yes. Oh, he was well known in Dublin. Tommy Weaving, yes.
And do you remember other people in the company at that time?
Yes, indeed I do. It was very good. Alf Gaynor played Doody. He was a well-known comic of his time, in Dublin. Very, very good. As a matter of fact, he had an influence on me subsequently when I played the part myself.
Yes, yeah. It's a nice part.
Oh, it's great. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah. Great comedy.
Getting back to the R&R, though.
Ray Lynott with Heather Hewson again.
In the days before you joined, say wartime, that must have been difficult for the society.
It was, because there was very little sort of shows available at the time, and in fact the society appeared up to 3 times sometimes during the war, because no shows could come in, from touring or anything like that, and they worked very hard in those days. They really did. They used to have to cycle and everything like that to and from rehearsal and in the blackout and all sorts of exciting things like that.
Then when you joined, the society was 40 to 50 years in existence.
It was.
I mean, by that time, did you have a stock of costumes and sets, and was the place very established in rehearsal rooms and all the rest of it?
No, it was of course established, but we had no permanent home. We acquired our permanent home in Rathmines in 1969. But we'd been using it. It was the National Schools opposite Holy Trinity there, and we'd been using it as rehearsal rooms for some time before. Came on the market, we decided to buy it. Cost us a lot of money, but we paid it all off.
And did you have wardrobe rooms? And
We never had sufficient resources for that. We always hire in that, and then we have very little storage space also for sets and things like that. So we would always usually have to get made, very often made in the Gaiety,
the theatrical element obviously interested you
very much. Yes.
Would you say, though, you're a real G&S aficionado?
Yes, I think I am, because I shouldn't say I think I am. I know I am, because my first theatrical experience was seeing The Gondoliers, presumably done by the R&R, because it would have been during the war years, and that was the very first show I ever saw. And I have went to see them regularly since then, and I have then played in them, and now have taught the music and all that. And the more I see them and work in them, the more I like them, and the more I find to appreciate in them. So I think, to me, that makes them classics. I know not everybody agrees, but to me it does.
And what was her estimate of the controversial W.S. Gilbert?
So he's a very complex character, but I think the more you read about him and the more you somehow get inside that man's mind, I think he's a fascinating person, and would have been a very interesting person to meet, I think. He's been given a bad press, so let's put it that way, as opposed to Sullivan, who was very easy company and very charming and got on so well with everybody, and everybody loved him. Those who worked with Gilbert and really knew him also loved him. But I think he was a man, apparently he took offence very, very easily, and could be, the sharp barbs would then come out, of course, which would not endear him to people. But his company, who worked with him, and I've read recently the memoirs of Jessie Bond, who was the original great soubrette, the original Phoebe, and she speaks so highly of him, and his painstaking work with them all at rehearsal. So I think he's been given a bit of an unfair bad press.
What about this misogyny, then?
There is a story, Ray, that it is said that he was very much in love when a young man with a lady of 47. And she then married someone more appropriate to her years, and that he never got over it. Now, I don't know whether that is a story or not. What I think he did not like was really sort of mutton dressed as lamb, if I can put it that way. It's not very elegant, but he didn't like the idea. For instance, there is Katusha in the Mikado, lusting, so to speak, after Nanki Poo, who certainly is young enough to be her son. It's that kind of thing, I think, that he disliked in older women, because actually he does give them some of his very good lines, I know that as one who's played them. The Duchess of Plaza Toro is a very gracious lady, a bit formidable, but she's a very gracious lady.
I think Gilbert was way ahead of his time.
Cecil Barrer on W.S. Gilbert.
With a lot of his dialogue, that business with virtuous, triumphant only in theatrical performances, etc.
Yes.
But he also wrote a song in Rathgar, "My Boy, You May Take It From Me," and if you wanted, it applies as much today as it did when he wrote it, the lyric.
My boy, you may take it from me, but of all the afflictions accursed, with which a man saddled and hampered and addled, a diffident nature's the worst. Though clever as clever can be, a crichton of early romance, you must stir it and stamp it and blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. If you wish the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it and blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. If you wish in the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it, or blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. Now take, for example, my case. I've a bright intellectual brain. In all London City there's no one so witty, I've thought so again and again. I've a highly intelligent face. My features cannot be denied. But whatever I try, sir, I fail in it myself. I'm modesty personified. If you wish in the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it and blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. If you wish in the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it and blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. As a poet I'm tender and quaint, I've passion and fervour and grace. From Ovid and Hollis to Swinburne and Morris, they all of them take a back place. Then I sing and I play and I paint, though none more accomplished as I. To say to what reason you ask me the reason, I'm diffident, modest and shy. If you wish in the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it and blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance. If you wish in the world to advance, your merit shall bound to advance. You must stir it and stamp it, or blow your own trumpet, or trust me, you haven't a chance.
And all of that was prompted by the centenary of the Rathmines and Rathgar Musical Society 1913 to 2013. If You Want to Know Who We Are is the title of Miles Dungan's history, published by